Well, it's been a little bit, and we are back. Matty, welcome
Mm,
back. And we are
yeah,
joined by a return guest with a pretty amazing accomplishment last week, Celina McMichael. Matty, how's it been this time off?
I
We
missed
haven't
you.
done this.
Yeah, it's been a long hiatus. How many days has this been? I feel like it's been. I said to myself the other day, I was like, it feels like I think I've done this before. It felt like many weeks, so it's nice. That tells me that we're having a good time, right? I always miss this,
Good time.
so yeah, I'm glad.
Last
I'm glad you're back.
a vacation.
Yeah,
I think it was,
Yes. So
yeah,
even
yeah,
podcasters need their vacations, Celina.
yeah.
yeah, definitely. I guess so.
So, Celina, welcome
Yeah,
back.
Mm.
Congratulations. You finished the Boston Marathon, your first Boston Marathon.
thank
Uh,
you.
what was going through your mind when you crossed the finish line? Like, tell us a little bit about,
Sure.
your journey on the actual race. And we want to dive into a little bit of your story too. People have
Yeah,
been asking.
awesome. Yeah, I know I can dive right in. You want me to start with the finish or start at
Start
the
with the
beginning?
finish and we'll go backwards. We'll go
Yeah.
back in time.
Choose your own
Your
adventure.
journey though.
Yeah, it's your journey. We're following you.
Okay. All right. So starting at the finish is kind of like going, yeah, it's like kind of like going backwards for me to tell it that way. So the finish, it was a little bit surreal. I feel like the last mile was definitely definitely found the second wind with the last mile. Before the last mile, it gets pretty daunting. It's kind of like the dark zone. I've come to label it this time around. And this did happen in my training as well. It's kind of like I trained up to mile 21 this year.
Okay.
And it was kind of like each long run, that like kind of dark place would come pretty close to the end, but not exactly the end. It's kind of like that last mile. You're always like, I got this, I'm like so close
You're
now.
almost there.
That carries you home. But so mile
Yeah.
26 into the finish line was just amazing. I was like very lucky to run for Tedy's team and have my name literally right here on my. So everyone was screaming my name,
That's
from
incredible.
the
Rock
beginning
star.
all the way to the finish. So that was definitely carrying me through that last mile or even less, because your mind definitely plays some really really hard tricks on you. Even like a half mile from the finish, you're still questioning, should I pick up the pace? Am I like far, like close enough to the finish that I can actually pick up my pace? Kind of thing. Yeah, because the last, I don't know, it's just that last stretch it's just brutal. But I had definitely kind of, I would say from mile 25 and a half to 26.2, I was doing pretty good, because and crossing the finish line, I was definitely ready to finish, if that makes sense.
It
You know,
does.
yeah, I was definitely
Yeah.
ready to finish. I was definitely ready to see some friends and family. The course is so congested with spectators everywhere. It's really hard to find your friends and family. So even though most of my family was right at the Lenox, which is very, very close to the finish, I never actually saw them. They could see me. Yeah, but I was on the opposite side of the road. I didn't see them. It's kind of like I see it in videos afterwards.
There's so many people there. It's just a mass of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and because everyone's screaming my name, I couldn't really pick out the family
Like
member
certain people, it
name.
probably becomes
Yeah.
like a blur at some point here.
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah, that final ending, every road marathon I've ever done is definitely a blur. It definitely is like you're not really hearing or seeing a lot.
Yeah.
Or at least I wasn't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we were talking about that earlier too. It's the
Yeah.
mental and the physical. And to your point, you're in it and you've like so exhausted. You're at the end of this journey
Yeah.
and there's all these people, like how you would even be able to pick those people out. Although I wondered, some people, I've read some stories where some people said there's like this weird moment, and maybe if you do more of them, you get to this point where you like everybody other than the people you wanted to see as you're finishing sort of like blur, and you can just
Oh,
like
that's
lock in, especially too, because you were
yeah.
telling us like Tedy's team set your family up with like a little bit of a VIP experience. So I wonder if that's something that you can look forward
Yeah.
to next time.
Oh, definitely, definitely, for sure. And I definitely was very focused on seeing Tedy.
Mhm.
Tedy Bruschi and his wife Heidi
Yep.
were up next. They were up in a balcony, so they are really high up in the building, literally hanging out the window. So, you know, and he does that for all the runners. For some of the runners, he was right down like on the street, kind of helping them to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just remember looking at the Lennox, didn't see my family. I was just like looking for Tedy. Yeah. I saw him hanging out the window and I just gave him the big wave. And that was
And he's a
definitely,
Boston celebrity too. So
yeah,
like everyone wants to see Tedy Bruschi in Boston. But
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit for people that didn't hear your first episode. Tell us a
yeah,
little bit about Tedy's team and what you were running for, because it is an
yeah.
amazing story. I tweeted out the link, and I'm not a Twitter guy, but I was tweeting out the link, and then I had people reaching out to me like, "Is this a good handbook for stroke awareness?" And I'm like, "I am not a doctor." Like, I was like, "I am
But
just
yes.
someone doing a podcast," but we
Yeah.
had amazing guests. So tell us a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I ran for Tedy's team. Tedy is Tedy Bruschi, of former Patriots, is a two-time stroke survivor, and created Tedy's team. I think it's 18 years ago. So it's been going. He's been doing this for quite some time with the Boston Marathon and other marathons now too. Just raising money for stroke awareness, stroke survivors, and stroke research. So yeah, and the reason why I joined Tedy's team is because I'm a stroke survivor. I have had 5 strokes in my lifetime, and I'm here to advocate for other people that have gone through what I went through, or possibly a lot worse. In my time from being on Tedy's team alone, I have 2 close friends that have had strokes. And that's close friends. That doesn't include people, out there that
you
know, or
Yeah.
even in town. So I feel like the statistics are pretty heavy, and those people are not older. They're also under 50 years old. So, it's something I'm really passionate about, and I have little to no deficits to deal with. And I've been an athlete, during my whole life, I guess you would say, since I was 18 years old. So it's just something that I wanted to do. I've been a marathoner and runner before I had 3 of the major strokes, and I wanted to get back to it. And Tedy's team is a safe place to do that, which could kind of segue into a really good part of my marathon story, if you want.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to hear it. We want to hear it. I just
Yeah.
want to, applaud you too. Like,
Yeah.
it's not easy for anyone to talk about anything, medical history, et cetera. And
Oh.
you bring awareness, to everyone out there, that even our tens of listeners that might hear it, but if they share it out and the word gets around, and I think it's been incredible watching you promote stroke awareness.
Yeah,
through social media.
the common theme that I hear from people who have heard the episodes and kind of heard your story is like the pragmatic way that you go about your scenario and your situation, and then how you can address it, and how you can, like, to Gibby's point, how you have the ability to sort of like spread some of that awareness and that's really what this is about. So aside from the fact that you just finished a marathon, which I do not believe,
Right.
I
walked
do not
26.2 miles.
yeah, I
last
don't
week.
believe I could do it. I honestly do not believe I could do it. I don't even think I could get through the training. So that part is awesome. But then just all the other things that you just kind of like take in stride, no pun intended, is awesome too. So definitely props to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot, but it's definitely like, it brings a lot of happiness and, I guess, comfort to know that I am helping people recognize the signs, and that I just urge people not to ignore the signs and symptoms is a big part of it too. That's part for me. And I've also helped kind of some other stroke survivors to understand that, because there was, I believe, 6 or 7 stroke survivors running on our team this year, which I think is
Cool.
they've ever had. So I just had some good conversations with them as well, because the hard thing about being a stroke survivor is that you are at much higher risk of having another stroke. Kind of having those kind of candid conversations with them that, you're not free, and make sure you talk to your doctor and, be really wise if you go off of medications, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So your favorite story, we interrupted you to praise you.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking about the marathon backwards. So the finish was it was a great moment. There's kind of nothing that beats kind of crossing that iconic yellow and blue finish line in Boston. But to kind of backtrack a little bit is I was doing great. I was pacing really, really strong in this race. And, until about mile 22, I did really well with Heartbreak Hill, all of that good stuff. Kind of cruised right up it, strong and steady. But not too long after that was kind of that kind of place set in where I hadn't trained to yet. So mile 22, I said I trained up to 21 miles. Training block was my longest training run. And during my training runs, a lot of those kind of hard and heavy thoughts would hit, like, I don't know if this is safe. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? I would get some anxiety, kind of feel like my chest tighten and kind of close up. And that happened at mile 22. I started to kind of hyper vigilantly look at my watches. I unfortunately did not wear my chest strap. I probably should have, because that was kind of the chest strap heart monitor was kind of my safety net of watching my heart rate and knowing that it was actually accurate. Okay. The monitors tend to read a little bit inaccurate.
They're not perfect.
The Apple Watch will tend to read really high when it's not. So I made the mistake of looking at Apple Watch monitor, and then my mind definitely took over. I saw some ambulances. Ambulances tend to give me, I guess, PTSD. I would just say
rightfully so.
Fear. And I just remember, just kind of thinking all the thoughts of what if I don't make it? What's going to happen? Who's going to help me? All of those things. And there's obviously thousands of people there, but I luckily up ahead, there was another Tedy team member. And sorry.
No, that's all right.
So he was up ahead, and our jerseys were really bright. Actually, I should have got it to show you, but on the back, all in red, really huge, has the Be Fast, and we're just really recognizable. And I didn't even know who it was. Our team was really big. We had 58 people on our team. And all of us had, again, the names right here. So I just kind of ran right up to him, shoulder to shoulder, just looked across and saw his name was Scott. And he actually had been someone who was pretty candid at our celebration night. And he was a really big fundraiser, one of the top fundraisers. And he accepted this award singing Garth Brooks song. And on the bus to Hopkinton was doing the same thing. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, it's the Garth Brooks guy. Cool. So I just kind of looked at him, and it was really quiet, but it was just like, I need to run with you now. And he didn't say anything, but I literally was a few inches away, shoulder to shoulder, just not breaking pace from him. He was running fast enough that I felt like I wasn't going deathly slow or anything. It was a good pace for me to keep, and he wasn't going too fast that I felt like I had to, bail behind him or something like that. And from mile 22, literally all the way to the finish, we're like hip to hip. So any of the finish photos that like Boston took were like right next to each other, crossing the finish line together, kind of the whole bit. And I kind of broke free from him for a quick minute, right around that like 25 and a half to mile like 26 or so. He's like, yeah, you can go ahead. And I did for a little bit, but then just with the way the crowd kind of went, I ended up kind of coming right back to him. And we didn't talk, nothing
Okay.
like, the whole way. It's kind of like a hard point in the game to talk to somebody.
Yeah, you're dialed in. You're just trying to get to the end.
You're using all your mental energy to get to the finish. And I guess his story is basically that I definitely kept him going a lot faster than he was going to go. And that and running, I didn't walk at all. So this is actually I believe the first marathon I didn't walk a step.
Awesome.
That's
yeah,
incredible.
like at all. Like just, I think it was like the perfect pace, to the finish.
You were just feeling it. Yeah.
I was just feeling it. And, I probably could have broke free from him and went up ahead, but something kind of just kept telling me like, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's the spirit of it, right? Is like you said,
Yeah.
so at the beginning when you were saying you were going up Heartbreak Hill and you were sort of like, am I going to make it? The doubts creep in and then you see things and you're just kind of like, your mind can take over. But I think the spirit of the whole thing is the togetherness and the sort of like the collaboration it takes to, it could be a little thing. And you didn't even speak to him. You guys both just sort of like inspired each other in that moment, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. He knew I was a stroke survivor because we had met months ago in November at the kickoff, and I told my story then, but he didn't really know my story very well until after the race. And I started to kind of tell him and sent him a bunch of stuff. And, this was even a few days after the race. And he's like, oh, geez, so he kind of realized that, he definitely helped me to get that first post-stroke marathon in the books.
That's great.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. I think it was an amazing moment for Tedy's team in general, because that's what the team is for, supporting stroke survivors for their comeback, so I'm looking at this as my comeback 2023,
So
yeah.
That's
with
awesome.
that said, it's like rest, take your time.
Oh yeah.
But are you planning another race? Are you like, and I hate saying that because it's always like, oh, you accomplished this major.
We always look to the next.
What's
thing.
next, right? But like, so I don't want to phrase it that way, but I'm getting a sense from you that what's next?
There's definitely next. Yeah, I needed to finish this marathon safe and strong. Which I did, I crossed that finish line, literally like perfect running form, looking really strong. The next, I actually decided to stay on Tedy's team for the rest of the year. Yep. And I'm going to run New York.
Oh, wow. When is New York? Is that October?
November.
I was going to say, I feel like it's in the fall. And then when is Chicago is Chicago kind of?
October.
Okay. So it's time to do both of those. That'd be tough.
It would be very tough to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, listen, again, I would not be able to do any of them, but I'm thinking like there probably are some people who do both, and I can't imagine that. That's insane.
Yeah. It's not even really me, before this to do multiple road marathons, especially in a year. It's more of like a yearly goal, but I'm feeling really strong. I don't have any issues from finishing this marathon. My hamstrings were really, really sore, but that's pretty much gone now. And we're just a week out. So I think that's pretty good. No foot pain, no like funny, like calf, ankle, IT band, nothing's pulled. I think the big thing right now is not to do anything crazy for a little while. Take it easy. But Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, what are some of the things like you've been at this now for a while, planning this and
Yes.
all that you've done in terms of stroke awareness too. Like you must have looked back in there. You mentioned when we were talking about this before we started recording, like both the mental preparation and stress and fatigue and the actual body fatigue from running the marathon. Like what are there any takeaways that you've learned through this process where you felt like you've grown or
Oh, absolutely.
oh my gosh, this is amazing?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I've grown pretty wise over this training cycle. So kind of the story that I just told about pulling back, because I was pulling back. I was running a pace of about anywhere between 8-10 minute miles and like 8:30, and I pulled back to about a 9:30 minute mile pace.
Okay.
Right. I do believe that I could have broken on if I really wanted to, but this training cycle, I've been better than ever listening to my body and listening to my mind. I've practiced that in the gym many, many times when I feel like, heart rate getting really high, that kind of stuff, which is kind of like really pulling back, modifying. I've practiced that in my long runs by myself. Again, kind of like, like kind of pulling back and being conservative, because I do have that real competitive side with myself. And I've learned, it's okay to pull it back and rein it in a little bit. And you kind of find that like safe place. And through doing that, I've actually retrained my heart rate to be super stable, which it had been pretty erratic in some half marathons and things that I had tried to run before this. So I think, I've really kind of grown that way mentally and physically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It definitely does.
There's a lot of nuance to it. It's not linear. That's from what I've been told, obviously from what I read after we met last time. So that's cool that you were able to do that. That seems almost as hard as anything else. Yeah.
It is hard, because it's really hard if you know you're capable to step back a little bit.
Yeah.
To not like push that extra.
Yeah.
So this wouldn't be One Night in Pinehurst if we didn't ask you a very important question about a passion of mine. What was your meal post marathon? What was your go-to meal?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Yeah, great question. I didn't get the hamburger that I had previously talked about. I haven't had that yet, so maybe this week, but chicken fingers and French fries.
Perfect.
So
classic.
the chicken fingers are amazing. Yeah.
Were they the chicken fingers that have like a very thick, crunchy breading on it, or were they like a little bit of a less breaded, like thinner?
No, they're pretty crunchy. There are a lot of bread, sure, and French fries. There was an endless supply of that at Tedy's and his little I don't know what you want to call it, but at the post party event.
I like that.
All kinds of great food. And my husband Jason got me a glass of champagne, which I was scared to drink at first.
I can imagine.
What is this going to do to my body? It's already so tired.
But I did get it down, the whole thing, eventually, and it actually was a pretty good post marathon drink. I think the bubbles and stuff,
Yeah.
So,
well earned.
Yeah, that was it was amazing for sure.
And sorry, go ahead, Celina.
Go ahead. I've never experienced anything like Boston. And probably, if you interviewed people that run Boston, they'll say the same thing. The spectators are just like nothing else, nothing like I've ever seen, just screaming, mile 1 to 26.2. Just the energy is so much positivity. I did extremely well in the whole way, felt really strong, felt like if I ever needed a pick me up, all I would do is kind of instead of running in the middle of the road, go closer to the gates where the people are and just put my hand up. You could just get high fives for miles, like no kidding. And I kind of like test out the crowd a little bit here or there because it downpoured for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a wet track.
Yeah, it was wet. So I was completely soaked all the way through for some time. Luckily it did lighten up. But yeah, when I would kind of see the crowd was kind of like low, if I ran over to them and just put your arm up, oh boy, yeah. It was like, you gotta be ready for that because like the energy you got back was tenfold, screaming your name, just like everyone getting riled. It was
They're out there all day too, like you said. It's like it's the only spectator sport where there's not one thing. There's one thing happening on a loop. It's not like a game of some sort. You have to like keep interested. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, and a lot of people warned me that it's like definitely a thing trying to find your spot in the pack the first few miles.
Yeah,
that's pretty mentally challenging. I was getting frustrated because you're like not moving. You're like, and you're just looking at your clock like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. You're like, but then right after like mile 2, it opened up and I was able to run the pace I wanted to run.
Yeah, the faster runners will separate and like the ones that are actually trying to win the marathon, and then you get a little space and then it kind of opens up. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Celina, thank you for sharing your story the first time around. Like, honestly, I think Matty and I were talking when we saw each other about a month or so ago. And people were asking us, what's the show that you've gotten the most feedback about? And it was absolutely your story and, spreading the word. So
it's very relatable. Yep.
Very much. And so you've made a huge impact.
Yeah.
I hope so. If that's the least that I can do, that I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that, and I highly recommend running Boston.
I'll watch Boston one of these days.
Or just watching it. Definitely. Yeah, for sure.
We're good at high fives here.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we'll be guys giving high fives.
Yeah.
Celina, where can people learn a little bit more about either Tedy's team or stroke awareness before we sign off?
Yeah, the perfect place to go is Tedy's team because they have tons, and I brought my little magnet again. They have tons of info online for people to access. They even have in their website places where you could print posters with all of these graphics and signs on them if you wanted to hang them up at work or anything. But I do know if you even reach out to them, they'll send you stuff for free. So tedysteam.org is the place, number one place to go. You could reach out to the American Heart Association as well. They definitely post a lot of information on stroke and heart disease for sure, but just knowing the signs, be fast. And if you're having any of those signs or symptoms, get to the hospital. Even if they're not like severe. That's one thing I'm trying to drill into people is that sometimes the signs and symptoms are not severe. Yeah. But I appreciate you guys having me back on.
Of course,
it's our pleasure.
Yeah, we love having you. Keep running. You're inspiring.
The medal too.
Oh yeah. No chips in the nails either.
Nope.
Yep. Wearing them. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Celina, thank you. Matty, great to see you again.
You too, bud. Thank you, Celina.
Celina, thank you so much. This was such a great return to from vacation and return of the show. And congratulations on an amazing
congrats. Good work.
And thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, guys.
Bye.